Hello, my name is Giga Jobnidze, and this is the critical essay video version of the assignment for Philosophy 1301 class with Mr. Gajecki. And I will be using a prompt going all the way back to the week 4, which goes like this. Compare and contrast the views of Kierkegaard and Nietzsche on the concept of individuality and absurd. How do these philosophers understand the role of the individual in the world that may be perceived as meaningless? Finally, evaluate the relevance of these ideas to contemporary debates on individuality, meaning, and purpose in the world of the 21st century. So Kierkegaard and Nietzsche, they were both really influential and important figures of the existential philosophy in the 19th century, and they both tried to tackle this question of the absurdity of world and individuality, and they both sought to try to find meaning in this chaos of the world. Of course, their views will be rooted in the world of 19th century, but they still resonate today while we're trying to answer the questions about identity, meaning of life, and individuality. Their views are very different from each other, but they're still trying to tackle the same question, but with a very different understanding. So I will try to underline the key differences between them and then see how we can use it in today. So I will start with Kierkegaard. Kierkegaard was regarded as the very religious existentialist, and he believed that absurdity comes from the desire of humans to understand something infinite, something that is divine and beyond their understanding and grasp in this finite and limited world, which would cause the absurdity of the world because we could not understand God's plans and God's ways. But in this to tackle this absurdity, we should embrace God's faith instead of trying to overcome the absurdity of this world. We should find meaning in faith, and true individuality comes from the one's connection and relationship with God, and how we stand alone with the faith of God. And he portrays this really well in the face of Abraham in his fear and trembling. Well, he is the ultimate expression of individuality. He believes that faith is not just a belief, but it is an existential commitment that defines the individual. So for Kierkegaard, absurd is not something that has to be conquered or overcome. It has to be embraced with faith by the individual's unique expression in faith. Now let's talk about Nietzsche and how his views are very completely different from Kierkegaard, because he straight up rebukes this idea of faith, and in his work that is called The Gay Sciences, he says that God is dead. So he does not believe in faith at all, and he finds the concept of absurdity arises from the realization that there is no inherent meaning and order in this world, and it's completely chaotic, and he calls this the death of God, which is a symbolic for the collapse of traditions, traditional values that once structured the human life. So for Nietzsche, the absurdity of existence lies in the fact that life is chaotic, indifferent, and without any predetermined purpose or some kind of moral framework that is implied by religion or metaphysics. So he rebukes those beliefs completely. But in response to this, Nietzsche believes that one has to overcome the absurdity by creating their own meaning. So instead of following God's word, we should craft our own selves and our own identities. We should find our own meaning in life. And this act of self-overcoming, turning life's inherent absurdity into a source of strength, is kind of the essence of Nietzsche's individuality. And for Nietzsche, individuality is not defined in the relationship of some with some higher power or external meaning, but it is defined by the creative act of shaping one's life as a work of art, pretty much. And he thinks that the absurdity is not something that has to be accepted passively, but it has to be challenged by ourselves radically, and we are the ones who should shape our meaning, pretty much, meaning for the world. So let's go over the main differences one more time. So relationship for the absurd for Kierkegaard was that absurdity comes from this tension between religion and human logic and reasoning, but for Nietzsche, the absurd is a result of the absence of inherent meaning in life after the death of God. For Kierkegaard, individuality is rooted in one's subjective relationship with God, where the individual stands alone, making an existential leap towards reason. But for Nietzsche, individuality is found not in the faith, but in the act of self-creation, where the individual rises above social norms, the absurdity of life, and finds their own purpose to live authentically. So for Kierkegaard, the faith is the central part of his understanding, but for Nietzsche, faith is rejected, and individuality is expressed through the power of one's ability to create their own meaning. In today's world, of course, those questions are staying still relevant, and we can pretty much have two ways of tackling those questions, and we should arise a question of should we return to the faith, to something higher than us to find meaning, like Kierkegaard, or should we embrace the freedom to define ourselves in the world without any inherent purpose, like Nietzsche? So these questions still are relevant till this day, and individuals can decide which path to take by their own desire and own nature. Thank you.